You know that feeling, right? When something you've believed for ages suddenly gets questioned, it can be really jarring, almost personal. It makes me think of that Nietzsche quote. Most people are not seeking truth. They are searching for comfort in illusions.
Yeah. Okay, let's really get into that. There's a lot there, I think.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here in this deep dive. We've looked at some interesting stuff, including an article, The Comfort of Illusion and Truth, which gives us a good starting point for this whole idea. But think of this as, well, a way to really get to grips with why that quote hits home and what it might mean for you.
Right. So our mission here is basically to unpack what Nietzsche meant. Why do we humans maybe lean towards these comfortable falsehoods? And what happens when we do? We'll be asking things like, what was he really saying? Why do we prefer illusions sometimes? What are the knock-on effects? And maybe the big one, how do we actually start seeking truth more, even if it feels uncomfortable? Okay, so let's start right there. This whole concept of comfort in illusions. What are we actually talking about?
Well, the way I see it, an illusion here isn't some kind of, stage magic. It's more like a false belief or maybe a perception that just feels real to us. And comfort. Well, that's that feeling of ease, isn't it? Contentment. Probably psychological ease mostly.
Precisely. So put them together, and we're talking about this tendency, maybe a very human one, to prefer beliefs that aren't strictly true.
Yeah.
But they give us that sense of safety, that ease. They help us kind of sidestep uncomfortable truths. And what's really interesting is how deep this seems to run in our psychology.
Totally. And the article we looked at really highlights some key reasons for this. The first thing that jumped out at me was this basic fear.
Yeah.
Fear of the unknown, fear of things that make us uncomfortable. It's almost like we're wired for self-preservation. And sometimes the truth feels, well, dangerous.
That's a really good point. Our minds are always trying to predict things, manage our world. So when information comes along that just doesn't fit with what we already believe, well, it can spark uncertainty, maybe even anxiety. So grabbing onto an illusion, especially one that fits what we want to be true or our existing view, it just feels safer, more comforting, at least right now.
And then there's something the article mentions that feels so incredibly current with the social media echo chambers. It's just so easy now to end up in these online bubbles where, wow, everyone seems to agree with you. It's like constant validation.
Yeah, and what's interesting there is how those platforms can sort of unintentionally shield us from different ideas. The algorithms, they often show us stuff that matches what we already like or believe. So you get this feedback loop, right? It just reinforces your beliefs, even if maybe they're not totally grounded in reality, which definitely bumps up the comfort factor of an illusion by, filtering out the challenges. It's almost like they're built to confirm our biases.
Exactly. It can make you feel like your view isn't just one way of seeing things, but maybe the only way. And then there's just, the basic human thing of wanting to fit in. Nobody really likes being the odd one out, do they?
Oh, that's a huge motivator. That need to belong, to be accepted by the group, it's fundamental. Going against the grain, challenging widely held beliefs, that can feel risky, socially risky. You might feel isolated, maybe even pushed out. So sometimes just going along with the accepted illusions, the comfortable ones, feels easier, safer, socially. Even if deep down you have some doubts, it makes you think about that tension between finding truth and needing connection.
And, in this super fast world we live in, the article also mentions our tendency towards instant gratification. We want quick answers, right?
Hmm.
And finding the actual truth, that can take work, real effort.
Precisely. Illusions often give you those quick, simple answers, even if they're shaky. It takes real time, mental energy, critical thinking to properly understand complicated stuff. And in a world that values speed, well, the immediate comfort of an easy illusion can be pretty tempting.
But living like that, in these sort of comfortable illusion bubbles, there have to be downsides, surely. The article points out some pretty big potential problems.
Oh, absolutely. One of the big ones is how it limits your personal growth. If you're always just reinforcing what you already think and actively avoiding anything that challenges it, you basically put a ceiling on your own development. You can become resistant to new ideas, new perspectives, and that really stops you learning and evolving.
And it's not just about us individually, is it? It can mess with our relationships, too. I mean, if you're not even willing to consider that someone else with a totally different view might have a point, just because it clashes with your comfortable idea, that's going to cause friction, isn't it?
That's a critical point, yeah. When our beliefs are built on illusions instead of, say, a shared reality, it gets really hard to connect properly with people who see things differently. That can lead to misunderstandings, arguments, broken relationships, basically. And if you scale that up, think about what that means for society.
Right, an article goes there too. It talks about how things like misinformation spreading or public opinion being manipulated, that gets a whole lot easier when people prefer comfortable stories over, well, facts.
And what's really concerning there is how those comfortable illusions can be, well, used, exploited. When people aren't willing to really look hard at information and they're more open to stories that just confirm their biases, it creates fertile ground for misinformation to just take off. And that has real consequences, more political division, holding back progress on important issues. It's serious stuff.
So the massive question then is, how do we start to break free from this? How do we get out of that cycle? The article suggests some actually quite practical first steps, like just admitting we all have biases.
Yeah, that's step one. Absolutely crucial. Recognizing that, our view is shaped by our background, our experiences, the stuff we read and watch. It's about having a bit of intellectual humility, right? Knowing we don't have all the answers.
And then it talks about actively cultivating that thirst for knowledge, really working on our critical thinking skills, moving beyond just taking information in passively.
Exactly. It means engaging with information, not just absorbing it. Asking questions, checking sources, looking at different angles, and importantly, being willing to change your mind if the evidence points that way. Which makes you think, how do we actually encourage those skills? In schools, in society generally.
And this next one feels really key too. Actively seeking out different opinions, different experiences, like deliberately stepping outside those echo chambers we talked about.
Yeah, and that can be tough, no doubt. It often means bumping up against views you really disagree with, things that might even feel offensive or just plain wrong. But it's so important for breaking down those illusions and getting, a richer, more realistic picture of the world. Engaging with that diversity really challenges your assumptions, opens you up to new ways of thinking.
And the last point the article makes is about empathy, cultivating understanding for others even when you strongly disagree with their beliefs.
Empathy is huge here. It's about bridging those gaps. If you make a real effort to see where someone else is coming from, understand their perspective, their experiences, even if you still don't agree with their conclusion, it allows for better conversations, healthier dialogue. And maybe, just maybe, it helps you see some of your own comfortable illusions too.
The article finishes with another Nietzsche quote that kind of brings it all home. "I'm not upset that you lied to me. I'm upset that from now on, I can't believe you."
Wow. That really gets at the erosion of trust that happens when illusions win out over truth, doesn't it?
It's such a powerful observation, so insightful. When you realize you've been operating under a false belief, it's not just your picture of reality that shatters.
Yeah.
It deeply damages your trust in whoever or whatever perpetuated that illusion. And that breakdown of trust that has really wide-reaching, damaging effects for our relationships, sure, but also just for society functioning properly. So wrapping this up, it seems like there's this, very human pull towards comfortable illusions. And we've looked at some reasons why that need for safety, the way social media works, social pressures. But we've also seen the potential costs, right? Limited growth for ourselves, strained relationships, and some really negative societal impacts when illusions take over.
Exactly. And the takeaway seems to be that the path to truth, it might not always be comfortable, but it's pretty essential. For us as individuals to grow and for society to move forward in a healthy way, it takes that active effort, thinking critically, and being brave enough to consider things that challenge us.
Which leaves me with a final thought for you listening right now. Think about a belief you hold really deeply, something core to you. What would it actually take for you to question it, even if questioning it felt uncomfortable? It's maybe worth reflecting on, your own personal balance between seeking truth and seeking comfort. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.